Hey, by the way, newsflash: we've already reached the 32-point plateau, so we're not going to get relegated this year, guys. So there's at least that going. Herzlich willkommen zurück auf Schalke America. It's a Victory Monday on a Wednesday. I'm your host, Richard. Joining me, as always, co-host Jack. How we doing, my man?
Doing fantastic. Almost to the midway point of the season, and the Victory Mondays just keep coming.
Victory Mondays keep coming. It's their 11th, in fact, this season, supplanting what we had all of last year. In Muslic, we trust, as Michael says, 100%. Yeah, we are the Herbstmeisters. We are the autumn champions with one game remaining. It is a new day, a new day. Wow, I can't wrap my head around everything that's gone on this season so far. Joseph's in the house, says another W, another Victory Monday on a Wednesday. El Waffle too, Blue Cow.
And like you said, guaranteed with a game remaining. So like that means, we have more than a result in hand at the moment, which if you would have once again had told us that preseason, I don't think many people would have believed you, even if you were optimistic about, what Muslic and Baumann and kind of the new regime could effectuate in terms of results and a change in performance.
Yeah, and I got a couple crazy statistics tonight for everyone that it's kind of put things in perspective and give you more belief in what Muslic is doing. We'll get to that here tonight. But the rundown for tonight, we're going to talk the Nuremberg match, of course, a game against our friends. We're then going to just talk about, the fallout from the game, look at Kicker 11, get into some talking points, and then look at some of the updates from the Knappich meeting and stuff. So we got a lot to talk about tonight. One game remaining to go. Next game will be against Braunschweig this Sunday, and then we get a month break for the Winterpause. So let's get into this, Jack, if you're ready. And I think it's probably good to kickstart with the fans, as we did last week. Kicking off with the fans, we know from every time we've played Nuremberg in the past, it's always some grand tifo. Whether it's at several years ago, the 2019 when the whole stadium was wrapped with colors of both teams, or it doesn't matter where the game's at. There's always something special going on. And again, in this one, this time it was by our fans. First, they unveiled our logo, right? And then they converted it into the Nuremberg logo, all in one foul swoop. Really well done, getting plaudits from all around the world for that wonderful choreography, Jack. They keep doing it, man. They keep impressing.
Yeah, not the first time we've highlighted it or called it out on a podcast this season. It never fails. So yeah, I think our tifo game is world class, top of the line for sure.
Yeah. No doubt about it. Herbstmeister, as El Waflo says, absolutely indeed. So let's get into the match here that was against Nuremberg. Always going to be a difficult game. Just because while they're not doing that great this season, they're still mid-table. They're still a very decent team. In terms of looking at Nuremberg's squad, not really too many people who I was too worried about. Obviously, Adriano Grimaldi is a guy who's pretty good, and as is Ali Zoma. Julian Justvan is their playmaker. I think he has something like 2 goals, 4 assists, if not more, this season. He is their playmaker, both in goals and assists. And then they got the guys who want to be Schalke players. Finn Becker, trying to take, Finn Porat's name, and Timo Becker, I guess, and Tim Draxler, so it's a lot of guys who want to be Schalke players, but we understand it as our friends, Jack. Anybody in particular, or how do you feel about Nuremberg heading into this match?
I think like just then that you called out, I agree with also Grimaldi. I feel like I usually am kind of keeping an eye on, and you're always afraid that Miroslav Klose is going to throw on some boots and head onto the pitch himself at some point from the touch line. So that's always a concern.
Yeah, absolutely. And then looking to our lineup, not really much anything changed. Karius in goal as normal. Ayhan, Katic, Kuricai in the back three with Valentevitz, El Fauzi, Schallenberg, and Vitalie Becker with Antwi Ajay, Karaman, and Musa Silla. The big news, of course, looking at the bench, our vice captain, if you will, Timo Becker, back in our lives. Good to see him back out healthy. Absolutely going to be an emotional boost whenever he's involved in the squad, Jack.
Yeah, for sure. And, it's nice to have that additional depth and rotation. I know we have Sanchez available as well, so it's not like we're down to nobody essentially. But, and look, I think maybe we'll talk about Ian a little bit later in the podcast, but I mean, whether or not you think his position's definitively cemented or not, but regardless, I think it's nice to have Becker as an option at minimum, like you said.
I do want to talk about Ihan later, and let's talk about him when we bring up Bauman later. I'll bring up Bauman later about it, but let's kick things off with Ihan. And the big news heading into this match, I think, was obviously Ihan has drawn a lot of attention. There's 8 million euros on the table for him for this team and that team, whatever. The first big team to come calling for him is AS Roma over in Serie A, and Ihan flat out told them, I'm not interested. He is a Gelsenkirchen boy, and he's going to stay with Schalke, at least for now. He turned down a big offer, so fans are pumped up about that. Obviously love seeing the local boys, want to save the home club and get them promoted, so I fully respect that by Ihan.
To me, I'm interested to see what your thoughts are, but to me, this is one of the more kind of like puzzling transfer market interest that we've had in a young player in a while. I feel like in this game against Nürnberg was probably one of his better performances, if not his best performance of the season, you could argue.
Yeah.
But prior to that, you wouldn't have pointed to him and said like, oh, he's going to be on everyone's radar based on how he's played this year. Like the defense as a unit has obviously been very good. But the standout players have been Kurachai for the most part, maybe secondarily Katic. Ian's been notable for the role that he's been thrust into via injury, but he hasn't necessarily had standout performances in those appearances. So I find it kind of strange. I think in the past when we've had, interest like this, whether it's like, Nubel or somebody else, like there's actually been at least half a season's worth of standout above average solid performances that kind of end up like warranting some transfer interest, even if it's disappointingly premature in our perspective. But yes, I find it strange that we're starting to see all of this. I don't know if you would have a different take on it, but I was surprised.
I am certainly surprised for sure. I think, with what we've seen from him in the Knappen-Schmiede, leading the way both defensively and offensively, and as a captain, really coming up huge in big games. It's going to naturally draw attention when a youngster is doing that, especially at an academy like Schalke's. But then he comes to the big boys, and he gets thrust into the starting 11. And I agree, he hasn't done anything like, he's been like knock him out, stand up performances here and there. But I do think his game has gotten stronger and stronger. It's been very hard to beat him one-on-one. Now, he doesn't always play a full complementary game throughout until maybe this game. But I think we've seen a steady, slow progression with him, and it's getting better and better piece by piece with him. And I think that's maybe just to draw people's attention that there is, like, similar to Malik Chow, that raw talent there. And someone just thinks, hey, I could probably harness that if I can get him and train him the right way, develop him the right way. He could be a stud, and I can see that with Ihan. So I'm surprised, yes, that some names are starting to come for him, but it's with as little experience as he has. But there are some tangibles there in the back that are slowly starting to building blocks and starting to build and build. And I could see maybe that's why maybe teams are starting to look, and teams are now looking more and more for the next big thing, and they look at the youth academies, and so maybe this is why teams are doing this, just because I know at least in Serie A, money's not always there. They can't compete with the big boys of like the Premier League, so you got to find players any way you can, and maybe this is the way they do it. So it is interesting that teams are going after him, Jack. So Michael agrees with you too. Totally agree with Ihan. His fellow center halves make him look good, and they do. And they're gonna have Muslic will have an interesting dilemma come this season. But this game against Nuremberg always going to be feisty. We know that we don't like to have possession of the ball. We like to just give it up. It was very much, possession heavy for Nuremberg in that first half. And really, it felt like we were just a conservative start by both teams. I don't know, Jack, how you feel on that? It felt like it didn't really get going until toward the end of the first half. Did you get that impression too, or anything in the first half hour of the game really take your interest from that?
I thought it was pretty cagey in the first half. And a little bit disorganized. A lot of just sort of like immediately transition. And Nuremberg especially were really just trying to get out and break on us like every time, and kind of like push the tempo and get us in transition. So I feel like over the course of the match, it just kind of like continued to devolve into a lot of like ticky-tack fouls and like heel clips and stuff, and people getting injured constantly, and cards coming out in the stoppages as a result of the way this one was going. But regardless, I think, good energy levels from Schalke being able to kind of keep up the pressure and adapt that way.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And it seemed, though, the one thing that kept drawing my attention is how the defenders seem off. And I mean, in particular, Katic and Kurachai, something like 37th, 40th minute, you see Katic go down for, second or third time of the game. Kurachai is bent over. they just didn't look good. And you see Felipe Sanchez warming up, you're like, oh, what's going on here? That started to worry me there. And I think, I don't know if it was gamesmanship or just what it was. That notwithstanding, what the work with the back three and everyone else around them were doing, all the possession that Nuremberg had, 0 shots in that first half on target. Say what you will, that defense is getting it done. Yeah, they gave up a lot of they gave up shots, not on target, but in terms of on net, nothing. Jack, this defense is starting to get a swagger, even though they don't look great all the time. It's effective.
Yeah, no, it certainly is. And yeah, it's not even always like the bend don't break necessarily thing. I think there's times where we give up a little bit too much space kind of in the midfield area, but like yeah, in the final third we're pretty tough to break down as long as we can kind of get in front of them a little bit. So yeah, totally agree. I think and this was another really good performance from Becker today as well. Once again, not just because of the goal, although that was, part of it, which we'll get to, but like I think it is another pretty strong performance generally in terms of his involvement in the game holistically. And when you add that to the equation alongside what's been a pretty strong back three plus Carius, then like once you start getting this, the help from those wider players as well, which is starting to think coalesce a little bit in the last more like 3 to 4 weeks a little bit. I think that's only going to improve things further.
Yeah, no, I totally agree about that. And look at the first half statistics: 62% possession for Nuremberg to our 38. We had 4 shots total. They had 0. Their goalkeeper was forced to make a save on one of the shots. Yeah, they had more passes, and we were definitely trying to do what we normally do: play very tight, play very physical. We had more fouls and more tackles than they did in the first half. So yeah, ultimately I felt comfortable that first half despite the 0-0 scoreline. And then at halftime, you saw Gomes and Porat come in for Antwi Adje and Valentevich. Initially, when I saw Gomes warming up, my initial worry was, oh no, Kenan Karaman. Last week he came off at halftime. Oh no, something's wrong with Karaman. But luckily, it wasn't that. It was this Antwi Adje. It was a tactical substitution. Antwi
Yeah, and
Adje,
I thought Karaman looked strong today for what it's worth too, or
he
in
did.
this one.
Yeah, and Atuaje and Valentevich who came off, I don't think they necessarily look bad. I just think that Muslic was going for a fast, heavy metal style football and wanted to keep those legs fresh. And that right side had to get some fresh bodies, and so Porat and Gomes came in, and it looked like obviously a fantastic move by Muslic in the grand scheme of things.
Gomes put in a good shift against the ball.
He did. He really did. I really like. He started to come into his own. I think he started to feel comfortable with the squad. Obviously, several players you speak Spanish on the team that makes him feel comfortable, but he's also learning the system a lot better. And everyone seems to love Muslic, and so you want to play for him, which has been really great. Ihan, in particular, we mentioned Ihan before. I thought, early in the second half, he had a really great standing tackle on a defender, and the crowd went nuts when he did it. So really, again, this team is getting more and more vocal support with these defensive tackles, and this is what we want to see. We haven't seen this in so many years. The defense is really what's bringing the crowd even more antsy and crazy because we missed the old days of the Javides and the Bordones and those guys making these great tackles. It's been a while, and so now you see like everyone in the back four making some of these tackles, or back five, whatever. These days, it's really great to see. And then, last week we had talked about what the one thing we loved while we were in the man advantage is that we took advantage of the numbers, and Vitalie Becker pushed up, got involved, got his first goal, and I guess he must have got a taste of something he liked, Jack, because in the 52nd minute, nice play. I want to say it's El Fauzi to Silla who made a nice little backheel flick that really went unnoticed to everybody, but it went right to Kenan Karaman. And Kenan Karaman, with his great vision, he leads this pass between two defenders ahead for Vitalie Becker. Vitalie Becker runs onto it. I wasn't sure what he was going to do with it. He blasted that thing home, Jack. What a shot. What a goal. The kid's on fire, Jack.
Yeah, I mean, full field sprint pretty much from Becker, largely unmarked for most of it, just kind of like running on the opposite side from the play. I think it was El Fauzi, right, that kind of got the ball to Karaman initially, which was a good play from him. And then, like you said, like Karaman just slots it very calmly right through two defenders, kind of perfectly weighted into the stride of Becker, who then, he collects himself and is able to get his shot off before he's, overtaken by defenders or whatever. And Took it well, man. It's a good hit. It's a really nice finish. Far corner, like
On
hit it
target.
hard. Yeah, just really good stuff. So super impressive from Becker yet again there, and once again Karaman involved in the goal creation. One way or another. On so many of our opportunities, so good, yeah. But I think it was Alfawzi that was involved in it. But regardless, I wanted to shout out him as well because there were another number of moments in this match where he did something, combination play, whatever, that just kind of like popped off the screen a little bit. And he continues, I feel like, just to get better and better. If you watch him, like he's constantly scanning, shoulder checking, and the guy's just everywhere.
He's on a swivel all the time, which is really nice to see. It's a great combination to be with Schallenberg, who's back as well. Yeah, and so that goal really well taken, like you said. I think Karaman, that pass, that vision was unbelievable. He continues to be our creative spark plug, as you mentioned. And again, I want to give my shout out to Musasilla, I think too, because that little flick he does gets it right to Karaman, and his run draws defenders towards him, and really no one notices Becker on the far side. I think now he's going to get more eyes on him now with the last two games. He's going to get a lot more eyes around the league and around Germany, around Europe now with if he continues this kind of play. But it is what it is. Shortly after that goal, we had another opportunity. Musa Silla this time took a slice. Looked like a well set up play. Just shot it over the bar. Getting closer and closer. I thought Ihan again came up big in around the hour mark or so. It was a nice counterattack, and he got involved and got stuck in and broke it up. All throughout the game, it was just really well disciplined team that didn't give up anything defensively. And when they had the possession, they tried to do some things with it. We finally saw the game getting a little feisty there. Obviously, the fans all love each other, but as we saw, I think in the last couple of games with Nuremberg, it started getting a little feisty between the two teams, Jack. You'd expect it. I feel like sometimes in situations when you have these friend relationships, and none of them are as big as Schalke and Nuremberg, but when you have fan bases that are friendly towards each other or more friendly towards each other, sometimes the players on the pitch maybe get a little sick of it and they start going after each other. But I love seeing the players going after each other, Jack.
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, this was a chippy match. Like people were getting taken down in transition constantly, and there were a lot of stoppages from those kind of things. So, over the course of the match, that can raise tensions and whatnot. But I mean, I wasn't super. Obviously, first half, I don't think we were particularly good, but I think overall there was better ideas going forward, especially in transition than we saw last week. So even though this was just like the one goal, victory ultimately on this one, I think as far as one goal offensive performances go, this was slightly more encouraging than some of the other ones we've had recently.
Yeah, I felt pretty comfortable with the whole game. I think obviously one of the main talking points of the second half in the 77th minute, Timo Becker, the prodigal son, returns. Love seeing him. I thought he looked good out there, good pace. A couple times he was tested, if he came on for Kurachai, and looked good out there. And then, it seemed like for 90 minutes, we had this game under control. Karius had to make a couple saves, whatever. But as soon as that 90th minute hit, and there's 6 minutes of stoppage time or something crazy, all of a sudden we switch off defensively. It seemed like. I guess Nuremberg deserves some credit that they started attacking. Why they waited so late, I don't know. But all of a sudden, Karius has to stand on his head. He had to make some big saves in stoppage time in this game. Got feisty there at the end of the game too, where I forget what the player was for Nuremberg, kicks the ball, hits Porat in the back of the head, and Gomes tries to go after him, which I love seeing. Gomes and Porat actually pretty close. That second half, as good as it was for us, I thought it nearly unraveled at the end, which it kind of like glimpses of the past with us there. I felt more comfortable in this situation, but still too close for comfort, I think.
I think the other thing too is when we say Karius has nothing to do this season because the defense is so good. Like that's not the case. Obviously, he's not under assault constantly in the way that previous Schalke goalkeepers have been in recent seasons. But oftentimes, at least once a match, he's called upon to make kind of like a one-on-one save. So as strong as we are, we do let up with a couple clear-cut opportunities every game. Unfortunately, he's just been very good in those one-on-one duels, getting big, getting low, rushing out, and with his timing and everything. So it's nice to see that he's, being as alive to danger and locked in as he is, despite the relatively strong defensive performances. But yeah, I got to shout out Karius again because he came out big on a couple different occasions.
He absolutely did. He had some big games, big saves, I should say. And you look at the overall game, we win obviously 1-0. You mentioned Vitalie Becker having a good game. Sofa score would tend to agree with you. Ihan as well. We talked about him, probably his best game with us. He was an 8.0 rating, Karius a 7.9. Still another quiet game in terms of score, with the ratings that people give it. But I thought, again, he wasn't doing so much anything in front of the goal. Was he attracting bodies away from him, focus away from other players? Yes. Was he still making combination plays with Karaman and El Fawzi and company? Yes. It's just little things that he's doing that are still helping the team, and that's probably why Muslic continues to have faith in him. But overall, I think a good, solid, comfortable game by us defensively, where we show everyone that we are legit threats to the Vitalie League of the season, at least for promotion.
Yeah, I haven't been slighted as worried about Silla, in recent matches as opposed to the beginning part of the season. Despite the spotty goal involvement and everything like that. It really is more about how involved is he in the offense? Is he involved in the combination play? Is he creating opportunities via movement and other things? So I don't think this was a spectacular game for him, but I didn't think this was terrible. Certainly not his most anonymous of the season, if that's the standard.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And it's funny I think we allowed like maybe one shot on target in the first 90 minutes, and then like they had another two or three in stoppage time. But I think Karius was obviously he's grateful for the position he's in and how the team has been doing good. His comments after the game, after the clean sheet, says, "We still have one target left this year, and that's to reach 40 points. That would make me happier than being at the top of the winter break." And I'll go back to this comment later, but obviously it's good to hear that the guys are so focused on accumulating points. Hey, by the way, just newsflash, we've already reached the 32-point plateau, so we're not going to get relegated this year, guys. So there's at least that going. But speaking of Karius, a lot of names, a lot of shouts for man of the match in terms of good performances. Karius is one of them. Vitalie Becker, obviously with his goals, I think maybe shouts for El Fawzi, get some love in there. Maybe Karaman as well. But when they voted on Schalke's social media, the winner ended up coming to Loris Karius. I think his big saves at the end kind of really swayed the final vote there, deservedly so. It's really toss up, I think, between him and Becker Jack. I'm not. I have no issues with him being man of the match. Him or Becker would have been fine with me.
Yeah, no, I think Karius is a well deserved pick given his performance. Once again, a couple different huge moments for him here where he needed to be called upon, and he came up yet again. He's had a pretty good record of that so far this season. Most of the time, outside of maybe like a penalty or two or something like that, most of the time we've really needed him just to step up. He's been there, so he continues to be a super important addition. I really just feel like we kind of stole him or got away with something somehow in picking him up when we did.
I agree. No, I agree. Michael says still has something to prove now that he wasn't picked for AFCON. Yeah, that's going to be a big thing for us. I think that everyone expected Silla to go to AFCON with Mali. Not that he ever is a starter or plays many minutes, but he normally gets picked for them, and he's not going to AFCON, so he's probably got a little chip on his shoulder and want to say something about that. Paderborn keeper is a $7 million man. Karius is 800,000. Yeah, Karius looks like the $7 million man now. As we pick Karius as the man of the match winner, there's always the kicker 11. Did he make the kicker 11? He did not. He did not make the kicker 11. But Vitalie Becker, for the second week in a row, makes the kicker 11. And it's funny now at this point, I think they're just trying to put Vitalie Becker in the starting 11 because last week he was down here in the left wing spot. Now he's like in the left midfield spot. They're just like, hey, wherever you can fit, buddy. Next week's going to be striker.
Well, as he continues to score goals, he'll just kind of keep moving up and up the chart towards the attacking positions.
Oh my goodness, yeah. I just thought it was funny because I looked at the one last week and he's down here. Like, they're just trying to fit him in there.
Yeah, they're just gonna be like noted number 9, Vitalie Becker. Not exactly.
We have to have a Schalke player on here somewhere. Let's just put him in there. Nobody's gonna notice. Speaking of Schalke players and starting 11, well, Ihan is the one who, and coming back to him, Frank Baumann had some comments on him. Frank Baumann was on the Broski show on Gamer Brothers TV show. The topic of Ihan came up, and so Baumann told Broski, gamer brother, Simon, says, Mertgen Ihan is from Gelsenkirchen. He is Schalke, living his dream. He will definitely not be leaving in the winter. That's a big statement there. We're delighted to have him and see how strongly he lives that sense of identification with the club. This is not something either we or the player are considering at the moment. Two things. Love to hear that. And two, that makes complete sense to me. Why when you are in a promotion fight, and why would a player who's from that city leave that city to go take a promotion somewhere. If there's truly are intentions for him, he can go in the summertime if he wishes. But this makes all the sense in the world. I'm just happy to hear that they can just put it to bed now. We don't have to hear about it for another 2 months.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully it's true, but it's probably also just posturing and is targeted to add a few million to whatever bids we do
Hey,
get for him in the meantime. So, but yeah, I mean, look, I think our primary focus has to be making sure we get promotion. We're in a good spot at the moment, like we said, game in hand, gonna have first place locked up for sure going into the break. But second half of the season is a long, long ways to go, and we don't want to be,
yeah.
selling off assets quite yet.
No, no, and I know that we probably feel more comfortable. We could probably get into that IHON discussion now, but if I can see if there was a big someone came with big money, how you would not how you have to look at it because you have to feel a little more comfortable now,
Yeah,
right?
everyone has a price. I'm not saying that, especially when
No,
Schalke in
no,
their current
sure.
financial situation. I mean, yeah, like definitely, if there's a big offer, we're of course going to look at it.
Yeah, and especially now you got Becker, Timo Becker's back. You got obviously Kurchai and Katic. Kalash is there somewhere around, but you also got
Sanchez,
Sanchez, Matriciani. There's some options there. Not necessarily, obviously your main option wants to be Katic, Kurchai, and Becker Ihan combination there. That's probably your number one right there. But I think they got to be feel more happy now that Becker is back for sure. But you had mentioned earlier the whole Becker Ihan what to do in this situation. You want my take, or you want to give your take first?
why don't you go ahead?
It's interesting, right? Obviously, Timo Becker is the beloved king of the city, so to speak. He's not the captain, but he's pretty damn close in our hearts. And I love seeing him out there. He looked pretty good for the 13 minutes that he was out there or whatever. After coming back from a big injury, even even if he was 100% fully fit at the moment, I am not in a hurry to bring in Timo Becker because Ihan's doing the job. He's getting better and better every week. He just had his best game of the season. This is valuable experience for him, and if he is going to continue to get better, if he's going to stay here long term, which I doubt, but if he does, it just gets his confidence through the roof. Two, his valuation is going to go through the roof. It gets better and better. And if he does end up faltering or something happens, then you bring on Timo Becker, and he'll have that many more weeks under his belt, fresh, not getting beat up. And I think we've seen a similar situation in the past where you had Nubel, you had Fairman, and you're rushing things too much, and then and you're like, oh, this isn't working out. I have to go back and going the back and forth. It just ruins confidence of
Yeah,
everyone, and I don't want to see that. And Ihan has a lot of potential. You would damage his reputation or his confidence if you bring a Timo Becker now. What does it say to him? Like, you had a great season, kid. Timo Becker's our guy. He's going to be in there. Like, in some respects, it would work, but as good of a season he's having right now and getting better, let him write it out for now at least.
yeah. I mean, like, well, I guess it depends on what the philosophy is. Generally speaking, you don't want somebody to lose their position due to injury, which is kind of what's happening to Becker at the moment, especially because I don't think that Ion's been that incredible overall. But also, like, we're about to head into the winter break, so there's no reason to, like, just from a pure
Yeah.
fitness standpoint, right? And re-injury, like, there's no reason to like rush him back in a major way before the winter break. And then once again, even after that, like, we'll see how it goes. But I also think that Muslic is somebody that I trust to kind of manage those personalities. And I'm also sure that he cares about what's going on in training on a week-to-week basis. So, like, if Becker's outperforming him, Becker's probably going to get the nod. It's just, yeah, when there's, I think some of those things, especially with the goalkeeper position, can just get so heightened because when the pressure's on, then you just feel like the goal gets twice as large, in a way that doesn't necessarily happen to kind of other players on the pitch other times,
Yeah.
for them. But yeah, we'll see.
It'll be certainly interesting here, but second half is just around the corner. Obviously, we got the next game against Braunschweig, which we'll get to here at the end. But going to the winter break, top of the league, it's kind of segued into our first talking point. Champions of the first half of the season, top spot secured with game in hand, 4 points, 4 point lead guaranteed, top of the spot. Big picture, I mean, our confidence is through the roof at the moment, right? How can it not be? I think psychologically, where we've been so frail for how many years, decades, it seems like this is finally under Muslic been correct, and Bauman, I guess, has been corrected. Where psychologically nothing has been phasing us this year, even when things have gone against us, we just grind it out, find a way, and somehow get a result. And so this win, our placement is a clear statement to the rest of the league that we are in the fight. We talked about it. It seems like we talk about this every week, but it's true. It gets stronger and stronger every week with each and every result. And this game again is another example where the team shows are legit. People want to say, and I remember on Gamer Brothers stream, people kept jabbing at him. It's like, oh, this is pure luck. This is pure luck by Schalke. It's like 15, 16 games in the season. It's not luck anymore. This is real. You got to accept it, whether you like it or not. This is legit. It's no more a false veiled front. This is it. This is what Schalke is. They're going to be a tough defensive team. And they're going to be there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like once again, 16 matches played, 8 goals conceded. It's insane. Yeah, when we had a good defensive record through the first few games of the season, like we were like, all right, let's see how long that continues for. But obviously, that's the thing. The other side of that is probably means the offense is a thing too, in terms of what we should expect from that. So the only concern is still, if something changes with regards to our defensive performance, either through injury or something else, is our offense going to be there to pick up the slack? I'm still interested to see what Schalke tries to do in the winter regarding either kind of like midfield or attacking options and reinforcements and whatnot. Although we still have some people that are reintegrating from injury and whatnot, like Remmer and other guys. So yeah, we'll see. But yeah, for us to be where we are, it's legit for sure. Especially because I think there's still an argument that we don't have a huge injury bug and that kind of stuff, but that we're not quite firing on all cylinders just yet. We're playing very well, but there might be a little bit more, juice left in the orange. So
I'm glad you said that because we are playing so damn well, and we have 37 points presently, looking to get 40 points, right? And we're playing well. We as Schalke fans are going to be skeptical no matter what. We're going to have a little bit of skepticism to us, or not be fully invested in what's going on, for good reason. But to kind of give everyone a perspective of how the season really is. Through the first 15 games, Schalke had 34 points, right? This before the win on this weekend. 34 points. Now, let's look back at the last 10 years of teams that were promoted and how many points they had. I'll just pull it on the screen so people can see it and read along, because I think this is important to kind of bring things home of what this team is doing right now. No team in the last 10 years has had 34 points. The teams that got promoted, I should say, in the first 15 games of the season. Paderborn, St. Pauli recently, Darmstadt, St. Pauli before that, Hamburg, Arminia Bielefeld, Hamburg again, Holstein Kiel, Stuttgart, Freiburg. You have to go all the way back to 2011 when both Eintracht Frankfurt and Dusseldorf, when they got promoted, had 35 points through 15 games. Through 15 games this season, it may not look like it, but Schalke is having a hell of a season thus far, and we just added 3 points to that, and we potentially could have 40 points, which, I think to get promoted, you probably need 61 points, I would guess, so 60, 62 points. This team is doing remarkable things, whether we admit it or not, and it hasn't looked pretty, because we all admit that this team should have another level defensively, offensively, we hope at least. And look what they're doing, Jack. This is remarkable things that it has to give everyone more optimism that good things are happening this season.
yeah, I mean, it's just the doom and gloom in all Schalke supporters that make us cautious and wary about this. But yeah, I mean, and look, yeah, it was granted and acknowledging, of course, that we're far from safe yet. Yes, it's a fantastic start. It's better than we could have hoped for, and it's one of the better, first half performances that we've seen in this division in a while. So, yeah, that has to be acknowledged and celebrated, and I think we can feel good about doing that. Because no one's, declaring us champions right now.
And none of us are saying we're champions now. We know better than that. But it's if you're looking at the big picture and what Schalke is doing this season, it's nice. It's a nice change than what we've seen in the past, Jack, and it's really good. And as a result of all this play, naturally you're gonna have some people that jump to the forefront. 2 players in particular, but I'll start off with the guy who's fresh on everyone's mind, Vitalie Becker. Scored in back-to-back games now. He's getting this taste for the attack, which he's always been an attack-minded type player, but it's more in the creative aspect now. And now he's realizing I can get some shots on target and maybe do some things too. So his confidence is only going to go through the roof now. And he's always been a decent defensive player. And so this emerging start as Vitalie Becker, that this may just mean he's not going to be with us as long as we'd hope. It's really nice to see that under Muslic's guidance or trust, has taken that starting role and run with it this season. It's getting better and better.
Yeah, I mean, it makes you wonder why the rumors aren't for Becker as opposed to Ihan. And I know, like,
Yeah, right.
profile and physicality and size and all that kind of stuff come into, what certain clubs are looking at. But like, yeah, I mean, I think he's been certainly the most impressive youngster on the squad this season,
Yeah.
up to this point.
No, he certainly has. Defensive, he's done the work. I think one of the things that's really why he's been so endeared to by the fans is because that work he puts in defensively. He's always back there, never gives up. We talked, was it last game or the game before that, where he has the ball in his defensive end, guys all over him, he gets knocked down, holds onto the ball and escapes somehow. I think it was last game where it ended up being a red card right after with Oberdorf. So like he's committed himself 100%. He fights tooth and nail for everything, and this is what Schalke supporters love seeing, and that's why they've taken to him so well. And so it's great to see that he's emerged as a star for us. But then obviously there's the captain, who whether he's scoring goals, whether he's firing people up in between games, or he's getting assists like he did in this game. Kenan Karaman in his creative role, the partnership between him being captain and then the young strikers around him trying to get them involved. It's not just Kenan Karaman this year, but he continues to be a valuable, important player for us, no matter how you slice it.
Yeah, 100%. I think we've talked a lot about that on recent podcasts, but yeah, it continues to be huge, and really glad that he stuck around and is still here.
Yeah, I mean, there was a chance that we thought maybe he would go, but thankfully he didn't, and he's still here. So, all right, let's talk defense. I think this defense each week is getting more and more validated. The structure, the discipline, the efficiency, the fact that they gave up one shot on target in the first half. Yeah, there's some more in stoppage time, but this team is giving up less and less. I think, not I think I know, in the game, and I think it's the fact that Muslic throws in these little nuggets, like you get a clean sheet, you get a day off, and then we continue to have clean sheets. Just like you said, eight goals against in 16 games. I mean, this is nothing we're used to with Schalke in 15 years, I think, probably with defense. In terms of defense, obviously Katic and Kuric are going to take the plaudits on this one. Two big pickups for us in the offseason. We're rock solid. We bend but don't break. We like with Nuremberg, they minimize their chances. I mean, there's very few times I was like, oh shit, until a stoppage time where like Nuremberg has a chance to score here. It's like, no, not really. We were disciplined the whole way. Boosters talks about this all the time, and I think the fact that they finally are starting to believe in this structure and getting this swagger and this structure and kind of dictating games the way they play defensively.
Well, yeah, the more results you get from that, the more willing you are to work and put the shifts in that help facilitate that scheme working better. Because to a lot of extent, once again, it is like work rate, it is how much ground you can cover in some of these areas. And if you aren't getting the results from it, you're less likely to put in the full commitment to it. So it helps kind of, I think, keep the wind in the sails a little bit. But yeah, it's incredible. The turnaround's been remarkable from last season. It really doesn't make sense, even with the coach and the personnel changes. It's just shocking that it could have been this different. I think Schallenberg deserves some credit,
Yes,
partially as well in the center of the pitch.
yes.
But yeah, obviously, Karius involved in that. Everyone. So yeah, it's been great stuff.
A lot of the naysayers out there will say, "Well, but Schalke doesn't have possession. They're getting dominated every game. If you look at statistic that way, right?" But I got a statistic for you to kind of open your eyes to that because it doesn't necessarily need possession to win games. As clearly we've shown this year, but like the last two games in particular, we've had 34% and 39% possession. But you look at control of the game. If you look at the game control index, Schalke's had control of these games. Jack, you want to take it a step even further? Where is it? There you go. Give a shout out to Alex GE. Found this statistic on Opta. Really interesting that it says game control average rankings in the league, and Schalke's by number one by far. This says essentially Schalke, sure, they don't have the ball, but they're dictating the game with their structure, the way Muslic has these guys set up. They are controlling the game. They're controlling what the opposition tries to do to them. They, as you know, we've seen in some games where Schalke take the strengths of the opposition and force you to go somewhere else. They should be exploiting, Valentevitz and Ihan out there, but they don't. Why? Because the way Schalke sets up and forces them to go elsewhere, and that old adage of possession and tiki taka wins games, it doesn't necessarily apply anymore fully because things like this with Schalke and other defensive teams at Atleti Madrid for how many years? This is what the kind of football they play. This
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, people talk about having the ball as the primary way that you can dictate the game, but there are certain, setups if you're successful enough at them where you can kind of shape the game without it, and have control without needing to have possession, and that's what Schalke's been very effective at. The thing that's just obviously been nerve-wracking is that even though the control of the game is what it is, sometimes the scoreline is 1-0, and all it takes is a single kick of the foot, and the control of the game has gone away. So that's why we've been kind of getting at all season is like we would feel better if a little bit more often we had more to show for it on the offensive end, because there just isn't enough buffer to ever really feel comfortable. But yeah, in terms of what's actually happening in terms of the game management, we make it really difficult for people to play against us for the most part.
What, you don't like winning ugly? Because that's what Schalke does. Is all they do is win ugly, and just play ugly games. But this is like I feel the fans appreciate this style of play more, even though it's terrible for our longevity. We're not going to last that long with heart attacks every game. I think this is what we want to see: is that the team is fighting game in and game out. And I think we've seen with bigger teams where they get these big leads in their league and they dominate teams, and then when it comes to crunch time at the end of the year, they're not the same team anymore because they've lost that. And I think one of the advantages, even not to us, but to the team of playing grinded out football, winning ugly, is you find ways to win results, but you're always in it. You're always engaged, and you never. The let off isn't as much as it would be as if you were just blowing people away, and then occasionally get upset by teams you shouldn't be losing to. So there's a fine tooth there, but I think winning ugly has unfortunately been part of our DNA for a very long time, Jack. And I don't know if it's gonna. I think unfortunately Bauman and Muslic have brought it back even further more so than it had been previously. There's more wins now. I think that's the only difference.
Yeah, and also wanted to mention appreciate all the commentary going on in the chat right now. We have a lively chat doing everything, but I mean, there's different ways of looking at all these things in terms of like the kind of polarities and the the views, like to possession, non-possession, all this kind of stuff. But yeah, it's I feel good about where we are this part of the season, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how healthy we can get, what we can do in terms of additional personnel over the break that's upcoming, and just hopefully we can get to that point without further injuries or anything along those lines.
Hopefully Chibata gets healthy enough over this next month where we can maybe start incorporating him, here and there. And eventually, maybe he becomes the thing at the end of the season. But it's a long way away. We need guys to get healthy, as Michael says. Very long winter pause. One more game until we wrap up. I was going to give a Frauen an update, but the Frauen are on break now. They don't come back until January. Same thing with the U19s. Really, the only team that played were the U17s, and they beat Hansa Rostock 3-2 this weekend. And I think that's our last game before the break. So yeah, everyone's pretty much on Winterpause mode at the moment, except for us. We got Braunschweig coming up this Sunday. It will be the last game until the break. If you look at the table presently, obviously we're top of the table, but then Braunschweig, it says they're 14th, but I feel like they've won more lately, and it kind of skewed things here. If we look at the fixtures that they had recently, they beat Kaiserslautern recently. That's back in. There you go. No, that's not it. Here we go. They beat Dresden, who's a decent team, 32. They drew Holstein Kiel. They beat Kaiserslautern. So they've had some wins. They've gone up the table here lately. So whatever's changed with Braunschweig over the last month or so, it's been working for them. So this game's gonna be a lot more difficult than the lowly position that we see them on the table right now at 14th. They're gonna be feisty, Jack, and they gave up a lot of goals, 28. But most of those goals happen to be in the season, so it's gonna be another one of those Nuremberg type games that we played every week, it seems.
Yeah, but I mean, we've taken business against Dusseldorf recently and whatnot, so hopefully we can do something similar against once again an opponent down there. Don't want to lose focus right before break. It would be nice if we could maintain at minimum the 4-point advantage that we have. So hopefully we do that.
Yeah, they play a nasty game with Grinta. They do. We'll see old friends there. Obviously, Sebastian Polter, someone we're gonna have to keep an eye on for sure, and Christian Conte, two good players there. Looking at the midfield, obviously Lionel Templeman, Sidi Sane are there, former names. Uh, Mehmet Chen Aydin, Florian
Florian Flick.
Flick. I mean,
This is Schalke 2, baby.
this is Schalke 2, and those numbers that we always talk about when you play former Schalke players, they're null and void here because we got like 15 former Schalke players, so you can't really calculate those kind of numbers. So we have to be very, very cautious about how this game goes, Jack. So yeah, it'll be interesting, no doubt about it. Hoffman as well, the goalkeeper. So the list goes on and on about how many former Schalke players they have, but it's going to be an enticing, interesting game. If we can get out of here playing well, it'd be nice to get 40 points, like Kari has said, and then just focus on getting healthy and try to do it all again come second half. Jack, what are your feelings going into this last game of the season? Last game of the half, I should say.
Just grateful that the new administration has gotten us to this point so far. Still, like I said, have the same apprehensions I've had the entire way through, but we have enough of a track record now that we have to kind of just believe that this is the formula and that it's a successful formula. So, barring a massive dip in form or people making adjustments to us in the second half of the season, which is certainly a possibility when you have time over the break to kind of figure out how they're going to attack us. I think you have to feel good about it. So, yeah, super thrilled that we're in this position, and not just, once again, not like, oh, we're in third, but there's like 5 teams that are within like a point of, you know what I mean? It's like we have literally a 4-point gap at the top of the table, which is not something that we've had. And even the season when we got promoted, once again, that was like us rattling off like 6 or 7 wins right at the end to kind of like push us up from a place of legitimate jeopardy. So this is a rare position for us to be in as sort of like strong and clear table leaders.
It's unreal. No one's even close to us defensively. It's unreal. Elfsborg's the closest one, but yeah, it's a hell of a first half, no doubt about it. And no matter how this game ends on Sunday, we'll probably maybe next week is when we can look at what we think the transfer would look like in the winter. I think it's still too early. Even then, it's gonna be too early. But I think we've done enough for tonight. Enough damage for tonight, Jack. Unless you got anything else.
Not really. I'm just like kind of reading the chats. I know like this has been kind of brought up a couple of times. Like if we're progressing or losing ground, I don't necessarily think we're making significant shifts one way or the other. Recently, I think if anything, it's mild progression. But yeah, I think we've been in we've seen a pretty consistent formula and relatively consistent team selection, all kinds of stuff for a while. I think in terms of table position, we're objectively progressing recently, but in terms of play, I think we've been pretty steady.
Yeah, I think the little tangibles is that like individuals are starting to improve more and more. Becker's gotten
Sure.
better, Lee Ihan and stuff like that, and then as a collective,
He
yes,
keeps getting better.
this is crazy. Yeah, only thing he's not doing is scoring goals, and that's probably the next step here because he's done everything else for us outside of play goalkeeper. So yeah, it's a lot. This team still has a long way to go, a lot of potential. But you've seen some statistics we said tonight. This team is doing some great things already. So like the rest of the league should be scared if we're not at our best yet. So but we'll see. Long way to go, Jack. Long season. So where can our followers find you on social media?
At JMMangan, JMMANGAN on Twitter.
You can find me at R_KHARMAN. We're now both in the Midwest. You were always in the Midwest. But more importantly, follow us at Schalke America all across social media. If you haven't done so yet, make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube, or if you're watching on Twitch, whatever, Facebook, it doesn't matter. Wherever it is, follow us and then spread the love of that is Schalke and let people know about us. More and more people are starting to come on to us in Germany, so that's good. That's good. Asynchronary, you and you guys, and El Waffle, keep spreading the word. Come on now. All right, Jack. One more game, and then we got a nice long month break. Let's enjoy this week and get ready for this game this weekend, Jack. For everyone else out there in the chat, love the chatter tonight. Very lively. Love seeing that. Enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy the game. We'll catch you on the Victory Monday, maybe. We'll see. Look out.